Yeah, I think that's the main thing that we wanted to show. When book club changed to be a virtual service, we really didn't know if we were doing what we intended to do back when it was big talkers of really children gaining more expressive vocabulary, so learning more words. So part of the research was to make sure that parents were having the experiences of learning a new strategy, learning new information, and being able to implement it with their kids, and then in turn the kids obviously making gains in their talking. No, I want you to talk about the research.
Yes.
Start, Audrey.
Good, because I didn't know any of the stuff that you just said about the book club. This has been really informative.
We're all learning.
That's why we're a team.
So the research studies specifically, we need to give a shout out to Sue Olson, who funded it. That she really approached Kirany and said, we're interested in whether this service is making a meaningful impact, because if it is, then we want to be able to share it with other programs. And if it isn't, well, then why are we doing it? But as Kirany mentioned, I think that we're seeing a lot of really anecdotal growth. You know, children are doing well. Can we attribute it to this class? And so as a first step, what we looked at was the data that the program already collects. So it's all housed by the state, which meant that we just had to ask the state permission to use the data. And we are able to look at just trends. Before they entered this program and after they entered this program, what were their scores? And we found statistically significant changes in a lot of key areas that we would expect that there would be changes. So that gives us confidence that this program is actually doing something for children expressive and receptive language scores, which is really exciting that it's doing something. So the next step that we'd like to see is to have a comparison sample that we want to see if the changes that we see in these children are sustained even when we compare them to children who didn't have the class, right? That these children are learning, they're growing, they're developing in general, and we want to know the changes that we saw in this preliminary study, is it just because they got older, or is it because of this class specifically when we compare them to people who didn't get the class? The key areas that we saw significant growth in were receptive language, expressive language, attention and memory, and parent interaction.
Which is what we had expected and wanted to see, so that was so good, so rewarding.
Yes, there was 4 other areas that are collected by the BDI. I don't remember what
Battelle
BDI.
Developmental Inventory.
Yes, so there were 4 other areas that didn't show significant difference from pre to post, and that actually, again, plays into this narrative that this program may be doing something to improve the things that it's actually meant to improve, because those things that weren't targeted in the program didn't have significant growth. I also need to say that significant means statistical significant. The group at the beginning looked very different from the group at the end, but that doesn't mean that all of them were super, super low and now they're superstars. That there was obviously some changes, but statistical significance is different than practical significance.
The other thing I'm thinking on is future themes of the research. We've just gotten the knowledge that kids' scores have improved. I'm really interested in a parent's perspective, and this is kind of ongoing where we just need more participants in order to get the information, but a parent's pre-video versus post-video, the first video they ever did with their child of going through a book versus after they've taken book club, and what that video looks like. Does the parent have more skills? And that's something that we want to also prove.
Yeah, we've been gathering some of that data, and it is slow going.
Parents don't want to be on a video.
No, it's hard, but it really is really exciting to be able to look at those actual behaviors and say you're qualitatively different at pre and post, but we don't have the sample size to say anything about that at this point. Like, that's actually where we started, was we wanted to have parents do this more practical, like, you just started the program and now you've been in for 6 weeks. Yeah. How did it change, sort of thing. But recruitment was slow enough that we decided to pivot and do the secondary analysis instead.
Mm-hmm. It is cool.
We should go back and look at that and see how it's going. We can at least say something.
Yeah.